Greetings and salutations. What? That sounds funny. That sounds kind of weird. I wonder what's going on here. Alright, let me check out something and then I'll do my official greetings in a minute.
Yeah, we doing it again. When the music hits you, you feel no pain. We doing it again and again. When the music hits you, you feel no pain. And now, show me your heart is beating, and you're breathing, and you're so full of life. Come let we activate.
Okay, so this is really interesting tonight. Now, hold on. If I ever tell you people what is happening right here, you would not believe. Okay, strange things are happening. Strange. And I've never experienced this ever. This is so weird. All right, let's try this again.
We doing it again. When the music hits you, you feel no pain. We doing it again and again. When the music hits you, you feel no pain. And now, show me your heart is beating, and you're breathing, and you're so full of life. Come let we activate.
Okay, once again, I want to say greetings and salutations, each and everyone. Welcome to the night shift. Yeah, strange things happening. The gremlins are alive and are well and out in their numbers tonight, but we shall not be moved. How you doing? Each and every one. Big ups to you. Welcome. Those locked in on the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew on TuneIn Radio, across the pond, One Harmony Radio. Big ups to you. Musical genius, Queen genius. Big ups. Want to say a big greeting to those locked in from WGLRO, home of the Donnie Walker Morning Show. Taking it from the sheets to the streets. We come to party all day long, and we going strong. So let me find it up, so show me some. Big ups to those tuning on PEMGTV.com. Put up something, come out to party. Welcome PEMGTV. And of course those right here at the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew. on kevinstew.com. Welcome, welcome. Glad to have you. Couldn't do it without you, and you have my word. I wouldn't even try. Gremlins are no gremlins. The son of Razor Saga. It's called Activate Life, and that's what we're doing. Each Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, right here, 10 to midnight, we're activating all aspects of life. I want to say thanks to Paul C Media Group for sponsoring this segment of the show. When being in the moment is priceless, give them a call, 754-999-6020, or reach out to them at paulcmg.com. They can do everything you see right here on kevinstew.com. Host your site, build your website, provide streaming services. If you want to take it a step further and have a channel of your own, Paul C Media can provide you with your own internet broadcasting channel. I want to say thanks to Althea and her Healing Heavenly Hands for sponsoring the second segment of the show. Althea is a licensed massage therapist that comes to you just as soon as all of this is lifted. Yeah, she'll find you wherever you are. As long as you're in Broad County, North Miami-Dade, and South Palm Beach counties. Give her a call, 954-655-9000. Or send her an email at thealater@att.net. Thanks to Reggae Global Entertainment for sponsoring the third segment of the show. Reggae Global will take care of your bookings, your tour management needs, your trademarks, your copyrights, and so much more. Give them a call, 954-998-8034. And of course, GMAT Music Solutions, bringing your events to life. 754-307-GMAX. 754-307-4622. They provide musicians, singers, bands, musical equipment, audio engineers, all your equipment, everything that you need for your live event. GMAC Music Solutions. In fact, you can go on their website and do some shopping too. GMACmusicsolutions.com. The track is Activate Life. The artist goes by the name Razor Saga. I want to say big ups to those in the stew pot right now. Marlon, Wicked show once again. Thank you for that. Walk down memory lane. Studio One can't die ever. I want to invite those who are listening in and like to participate actively in the show to jump into the stew pot. Others call it a chat room on their websites. We're fancy over here on kevinstew.com. We call it the stew pot. Tonight we have all our guests are really special. I can't even say one is more special than another. Tonight we are activating life. We are taking things from the perspective where, when I was growing up, I used to hear you need to stand for something or else you'll fall for anything. And the first time I heard it, I was like, what? But in essence, it makes sense. And if you don't know what it means to stand for something or else you'll fall for anything, well, I suggest you go ask some questions. But tonight, there's someone that you can ask some questions about standing for something. If you so desire, 773-789-STEW gets you in touch. You can call, you can text, you can WhatsApp. You can hit me up on Skype, kevin.stew. All those options are available. And of course, kevinstew.com. Easiest and best way ever to connect. I introduce to you right now the man of the moment. Are you there, Josh?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay. I was wondering for a moment. You sound kind of far away. But, ladies and gentlemen, you are kind of far away.
I'm in Las Vegas.
Yeah, so you are kind of far away. Ladies and gentlemen, the man of the moment, Mr. Joshua Martinez. Welcome to the night shift, bro.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So, all right. So, my people don't know who Josh is. Who is Josh Martinez?
Well, he's a free man, man of life. I do believe in equal rights for all. I'm just an activist out here in Las Vegas, Nevada, standing up for the common man. No political party, no government affiliation, just a man of nature.
A man of nature. No political party.
No political parties, no.
So, at election times, you don't vote?
Not anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore. I think politics, I think the Rastafarians said it well. They call it politricks because that's all it is. It's politricks. It tricks us into giving up our rights and our freedoms to government. I don't like voting because it's never worked, number one. If it really was effective, the government would make it illegal fast.
Really?
So, I that's why I disagree with voting. I voted for a long time. I used to consider myself a libertarian. Didn't really like the Democrats. Didn't like the Republicans because they were both feathers to the same bird. Just two puppets controlled by the same puppeteer. I voted Democrat for a long time. Not really much Republican involvement, but I started realizing, you know what, I want freedom for everyone. Rather than Republicans want more freedom for their people, Democrats want more freedom for their people. I want equal all around,
Right.
Yeah.
So, when did all this start for you? What was what was growing up like for you, and then where was it that you came to have this kind of mindset?
Well, I grew up in Las Vegas. Well, my father was in the military. We traveled quite a bit, and he taught me, good things. Respecting others, respecting your neighbors. And my family was predominantly Catholic, so I knew about religion and the teachings of Jesus. So I grew up understanding that. I grew up once my dad got out of the military, we settled here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Right.
I kind of slipped into the wrong crowd. I spent a lot of time on the streets, a lot of times in the gangs, but I knew that there was something more to life. I knew something that there was, something more, something bigger.
Right.
So I started changing my life around. I had a huge interest in law. I really loved law. Constitutional law was my favorite. So growing up, I realized, you know what, I have rights. I have inherent rights. They don't come from government. I want to start, giving back to my community.
Right.
Well, I tried, the straw that broke the camel's back is when I tried to become a private security guard here in Las Vegas. I used to work in the nightclubs, and I was approached by one of my clients who had a job offer. And the job position was really great, the job opportunity. Well, after researching more into the laws here, I had to go to the state to get a permit, a license to work in the private security sector. I had no problem. But I had an issue of a firearm charge when I was I was about 20 years old. It happened long ago. It was a small misdemeanor firearm charge.
Right.
No victim. There was nobody. Nobody was shot. Nothing like that. It was just a small petty misdemeanor firearm charge. Well, they denied me. They denied me this opportunity to provide for my family, to contract my time, my skill, my labor as I see fit. I already paid my dues for that misdemeanor. I harmed no one. Well, the state of Nevada still denied me the permit for that position. The person who was willing to hire me knew about it because I brought it up to him and said, look, I have this misdemeanor thing that happened years ago. It didn't prevent me from owning firearms. It didn't even prevent me from carrying firearms. I believe in the right to self-defense. So, yeah, I carry firearms everywhere I went. I'm actually a range safety officer. I've helped teach people how to use firearms.
Right.
So I was educated in that. But the person who offered me the position was well aware of the charge, still was willing to contract with me and hire me, but the state of Nevada said no. Then months later, I found out that one of the persons on the board who denied me and upheld my denial, one of their relatives got the job position. So
Wait, what?
They denied me the permit. Then I hear months later that one of the family members of the person on the private investigators licensing board who denied me got the job position. So I think it was their nephew or their cousin or somebody close to them ended up getting the position. So it was kind of like, well, I'll deny Joshua this opportunity so I can bring in one of my people and get them the job opportunity. So that's what happened. So after that, I came home. I felt defeated. I felt like I was nothing. I started feeling like I paid my dues to society. They're depriving me of a right to work without due process of law. I thought I was entitled to due process of law before they took something from me. I already paid the fine. I already did what I had to do for that little petty crime, the so-called crime. And they're still denying me the right to due process. And in the Constitution, it says before anyone's deprived of life, liberty, or property, they have to be given due process of law. You have to take me in front of a jury, and a jury has to find me guilty, or I can plead guilty myself. But they didn't give that to me. I didn't have a right to a counsel. I had 5 people on the board who judged me and said, no, you're not qualified to work in that field. But yet, in the state of Nevada and under federal law, the right to work is a federally protected right. It is a fundamental right in the Constitution, the right to contract your labor, your skill, your time of life as you see fit.
Right.
So we have plenty of case law like Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. It says no state shall convert a right into a privilege and issue a license and fee therefor. Shuttlesworth versus City of Birmingham, Alabama says that if the state does convert a right into a privilege, the individual can ignore the license and fee and engage in the activity with impunity. That means I can be punished even if I ignore their stupid statute that prevents me from working in that field. So, I felt defeated. I found all this case law. I went back. I spoke at the next meeting that they had. They hold public meetings that they allow the public to give public opinion. And I gave my opinion and I spoke, and I never felt so free in my life. Even though I didn't get the job, they didn't reverse anything.
Right.
But just giving them a piece of my mind, because it doesn't matter how it ends. It matters how you stand. And that's the point, that the only rights you have are the ones you're willing to stand up and defend. Even in the face of for sure death, even in the face of for sure defeat, you have to stand no matter what.
So that was a pretty bold move on your part to say that you're going to do this. Did you have
Yeah.
any support going, or did you
Oh,
just you were your support? Your conviction was your support.
yeah. Yeah, I actually, my heart, listening to a lot of Bob Marley growing up, read a lot of the words of Haile Selassie, realizing, the importance of our humanity. Listening to a lot of the words of activists from back in the day, from Pancho Villa to Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks. It's the obligation of a free people to stand up against immoral laws. So, yeah, it was my own support, but then little by little, more people started reaching out to me and asking, what is this? What are you talking about? What are these laws that you're reading? And I started sharing it. And little by little, yeah, my support grew. Eventually, I started taking my fight to the courts. I, wouldn't budge to these judges who would try to get me to cower down and fear them. So, yeah, I did eventually gain a support, but really it was my own wants to be free.
Your father was a military man.
Right, Air Force.
So what was his take on this when you decided to start doing this?
He was, at first, he was concerned because in the military, you're trained to obey and follow orders and be the best soldier, to be the best citizen as you can possibly be. But when I started showing him the Constitution and reading this little pamphlet, I mean, the Constitution isn't that long. So I told him, you swore an oath to uphold and defend this way of life. And our government is perverting that way of life. So when I started showing him, he began to be very supportive, to where, I mean, even he's exercising some of his constitutionally protected rights.
Okay, so what was the first thing that, because you said it's the Constitution is not very long, but apparently there's a whole lot to it. So where did you start with showing him? Is there a starting place? Is there a place you suggest, hey, start right here and then go from there and track back to over here? And
well, it's the Constitution is pretty simple. The only reason why we think it's complex is because that's what the public is telling us. That's what the government's telling us. They're telling us it's too complex to understand, so let's just let them interpret it, okay? But to anyone who wants to learn about the Constitution, I break it down and tell them to start with the Bill of Rights first, okay?
Okay.
Now, if you notice, in the Constitution, I tell people this: remember that all rights derive from property. If you have no property, you have no rights, okay? Now, my body, your body, is your number one form of property. As soon as you're born, your property is yours. Yes, it's small, it's crying, you need your mom, but you are still your property owner, because your right to life comes from your body. It's in your body. If I owned your body, which I don't, but if I owned your body, that would make you a slave.
Right.
You don't have rights. You can't do anything with your time. I tell you when to work. I tell you when to sleep. I give you orders. You have no free will. You have no free agency. So, if you understand that concept, then when you look at the Bill of Rights, you'll understand that it's broken down by property. The First Amendment, the right to speech, the right to worship, the right to think and say what you think and to publish what you say. That right comes from my mind, my body, which is my number one form of property. So the First Amendment is a property right. The Second Amendment is the right to keep and bear arms. Your right to have a firearm to protect your body, your home, which is your property, your car, your property, and also to hunt. If I wanted to eat and use my rifle to go out and get a deer, to hunt a deer, to dispatch a deer, and to bring that property back to my home to feed my property, my body, I have every right to do that. The Third Amendment is the quartering of troops. Troops cannot house themselves in your home like back in the days when the English, when the king ruled this country. The soldiers just go knock on your door and make themselves at home. They can have their way with your wife. They can drink your tea, drink your coffee, take your whiskey, and do what they wanted. But the Third Amendment says no. The quartering of troops is prohibited in a time of peace and in war. Why? Because it gives the property owner, the homeowner, to say no. This protecting the homeowner. The Fourth Amendment, the right to be secure in your person, houses, papers, and effects. What is your person? Your body is property. Your papers is property. Houses, property. Your effects is more property. So it lists a whole list of things that protects property rights. So that's what I tell people. Before you read the Constitution, understand the simplicity that all rights derive from property. And if you have no property, you have no rights. So if you understand that, when you read the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence, you'll totally understand. We are a republic. We're not a democracy. Because in a democracy, they can vote on anything. In a democracy, we can vote to have, your car, your house, your business, and even your children. We can vote on that. But in a republic, in the Constitution, it says we are a republic. And in a republic, the individual has full rights to his property, and he can exclude anyone from it, even the government. So that's the way I try to break it down with people.
Okay, so you just said something that is I know it just really threw me for a loop. Because ever since I became aware of the United States, I heard of it being this great democracy, which was supposed to be this splendid thing because it is the land of the free.
Right. But we in the Constitution, Article 4, to be specific, Article 4, Section 4, it says each state in the Union is guaranteed a Republican form of government, not a democracy. See, and not to be confused with this Donald Trump Republican, because that party has no idea what freedom is and what true liberty is, okay? So the Republican Party is not what the Constitution is talking about.
Right.
It's republic with a lowercase r. So Article 4, Section 4 says we are a republic. You will not find the word democracy in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. They want us to think it's a democracy so me and my neighbors can vote against you, Kevin. Say you have let's say you have too much property, too much land. And me and Joe and Smith and all these guys, we're all just upset. And we want to take your property. Well, in a democracy, we can vote to take part of it and say, you know what? Kevin has too many. Let's vote. And all of a sudden, there's 3-1. You're the only one who's opposing it. But the three of us say, well, no, we vote, we win, we can take it. In a republic, we can vote on anything else, who to put in the office. We can vote who or where to put the hospital, where to put the red lights, the stop signs, the schools. We can vote on things that don't belong directly to us as the individual. That's the beautiful thing about a republic. You can vote on anything else as long as it doesn't belong to one person. Yes. So that's the difference. The founding fathers used to call a democracy ruled by the majority, tyranny by the many, that you can be oppressed by your neighbors. So democracy isn't a good thing either. A democracy is just ruled by the majority. So 49% will be at the rule of the 51%. So, although you can't smoke cannabis in the privacy of your own home because the majority happens to be a super strict conservative majority, and they want to control the minority, and they don't want other people doing things that they don't like in the privacy of their own homes. And that's how you lose your Fourth Amendment right to privacy. People can start voting on things and say, well, you don't have a right to privacy because in order for us to enforce this law that the majority ruled on, we have to invade your privacy. So you can't have a free country and freedom when you have more laws that violate your right to privacy. So again, we are not a democracy. That is a lie that has been told to us. In some cases, it can be argued that we are a democratic republic because we can still vote on other things.
Right.
But the main principle is, the main foundation is a republic. We are a republic.
Wow. That right there is wow, because you say that and the first thing that comes to mind is a police search.
Mm-hmm.
That's first thing that comes to mind. And with that, let's go back a few years ago to New York with stop and frisk.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Break that down for us a little bit.
Well, stop and frisk in New York was highly unconstitutional, number one. But let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Who were the victims of that law? Who was more likely to be stopped by a law enforcement officer because of that law? It was Chicanos, black folks.
Yeah.
It was who they call the minority.
The minority. They consider the
population.
minority, yeah. Hispanics, blacks,
Right. So,
black people, brown
right.
people, yeah.
It was a unconstitutional law because it takes away probable cause. And in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, in the Fourth Amendment, it says right to be secure in your person, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures, unless probable cause or a warrant to be issued by a assigned judge. So in other case laws, like Terry versus Ohio, to be number one,
Mm-hmm.
if a cop was to stop you, they have to be for sure, without a doubt, that you are committing a crime, about to commit a crime, or have just committed a crime. So one of those three elements has to be met before they stop you. It can't just be because you're in a bad area, you're sagging your pants, or I don't like your do-rag, or I don't like you the way you're holding your phone, or I don't like the girl you're with, she's too hot, I want to stop you because I just don't like you. That was designed to protect us, the people, from government oppression. So
Right.
There's no probable cause, and there's obviously no warrant from a judge, so they have to leave us alone. But that right there blew out the whole privacy issue out of the water, because a cop can pull you over and say, hey, you know what, on second thought, you smell like marijuana, so I got to pat you down. And you can say, no, I don't like when you touch my body, which is my property. I don't want you digging through my wallet and going through my things. That is the assumption of innocence is what makes a country free and what makes a people free. By allowing the government to come after people simply because a stupid statute is not freedom. It isn't freedom. You can't say we're in a free country, especially with the stop and frisk law, especially when blacks and Hispanics were more likely to be incarcerated for drug use than whites and any other race. Because
Right.
if you break it down, blacks and whites were smoking marijuana at the same rate, but yet blacks were getting arrested 8 times more, the national average here in the U.S. So you got to really ask yourself, are these laws being used to protect people, or is it used to oppress a people? And when you break it down, it's really been used to oppress people. And people are realizing that. And with that stop and frisk law, oh my God, I mean, it was similar to the law in Arizona where they were targeting, people who looked illegal and pulling them over, stopping them, and requiring them to show proof of citizenship. That's
Right.
not a local law enforcement issue. The sheriff has no business in knowing my citizenship. That's right now under law. That's a federal issue. He has no jurisdiction over it. If he's not a nice officer, he has no business to be questioning me about my citizen status. But, they passed it. They passed a law like that, but it's been taken off as far as I know.
Right. So then those who were victims of that, were they able to, or are they able to take any course of action?
Some folks, I believe they did, but you would have to take it up to the higher courts, the Supreme
Right.
Court. And I think there was a ruling in New York and in Arizona. I don't know if they ended up in the Supreme Court or just in their circuit courts, where they knocked down and said it was unconstitutional to stop someone simply off of a hunch without probable cause, and it became a problem. But as far as taking action, it would have to be on a case by case basis.
Right.
I would tell them, if you were harmed or you were hurt or thrown in prison falsely over it, I would challenge it and file a lawsuit. And don't simply file a lawsuit to get paid. File a lawsuit to protect the rest of us. That's where people need, have to find the goals, is to not file lawsuits to get paid, but to protect morality, to keep the principles alive.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it you probably need to get a good lawyer also if you plan, because you're going up against the state.
Right. I have a lot of friends who are attorneys, and I love them, but it's hard to trust an attorney who works for the same system and the same bar. I mean, look at all these plea deals you hear about. It's hard to find an attorney who's willing to fight simply for the good cause, because they want to get paid. In the end, they just want to get paid, and that's not the way our system is supposed to be. We should not look for a good lawyer. We shouldn't have to rely on a lawyer to be that good to get to prove that we're innocent. Our system should already recognize truth. They should already know justice. There should be a good moral compass within our justice system. There should be truth. There should be honesty. There should be accountability. But because those things aren't there, we have to find this so-called good lawyer.
Yeah, because some way, somehow, there's always a loophole. With back in the day when they had the stop and frisk, it was, there's a suspicion, or you match the description off, and nobody ever seemed to be able to follow up on that description off. It always stopped at, you match the description off, so we are detaining you.
Right, and I've been stopped so many times off of that excuse.
Really?
Right there. Oh, so many times. I mean, since I was 13 years old, I've been stopped, like me and my friends walking home from the movies, hanging out up the street, coming home from school, all the way up to as an adult and getting off of work, going home. Oh, you fit the description. And I always tell the officers the same thing. It's funny that I've been, every time I step out of my house, I fit the description of someone, somewhere. And I say, well, here's a better thing. I'm not going to let you search my car. I'm not going to let you search my body. You bring the victim or the witness to the so-called crime that I fit the description in, point me out. And if it's me, then I have no choice but to obey.
Right.
If they make a positive ID. But if not, let me go. I mean, you can't just stop everyone and just say, well, you're close enough to the description. Your shirt is a different color, your pants are a different color, but your shoes are the same color. So that's one out of three. I'm going to go ahead and violate your rights off of that. Right. That's a scary thing, because it's there under their discretion. But back in the day, the true detective work, the true police work would say, you fit the description, wait right here, we're detaining you. They bring a person and they would flash the light on you. The victim or the witness would say yes or no, and then they would go away. Now with technology, they can even take a picture, send it to the officer that's with the victim or the witness, show them your picture, and make a positive ID there, and you're gone within 5 minutes. But no, now they're like, well, you're close enough, and they can go through your car, go through your name, run your background, look through your belongings, embarrass you in front of your community. It's insane. It's totally insane.
And then with that, if there is something else, then they can say, okay, we found this other thing. So yeah, it wasn't you for this first thing that you matched the description of, but this second thing that we found, we can get you on this.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
At that point.
Right. Right. They found a little bit of drugs. They found paraphernalia, and yeah, it's giving themselves their own written search warrant.
Wow. Yeah, and I'm not asking you to talk about this. We're not having this so that we can say, people go ahead and oppose the police officer that is coming to stop you to say XYZ. No, we're saying know exactly where you stand. Know what your rights are. Don't be disrespectful. Just know that you have some rights. Marlon posted in the stew pot, the Pledge of Allegiance says that we are a republic.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And so I guess we really need to have an understanding of how republics work. And you gave us a really, really nice little package to work with there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always tell people, because people always tell me, they call me, man, I wish I was that brave, or I wish I had the courage to stand. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You're willing to turn away. You're willing to not stand up for yourself, because to me, this doesn't take bravery. I'm just fed up.
Right.
I'm not brave. I'm just fed up with watching my neighbors be abused. I'm fed up with my neighbors being lied to. I mean, you said yourself that you thought we were a democracy for so many years. I blame the public education for that. I blame our government for saying that lie, especially when these politicians, when they're running for office, they keep calling us a democracy.
Right.
I'm fed up because, the only rights you have are the only ones you're willing to stand up and defend, and nobody's going to stand up for them for you. So when people tell me, what can I do to get involved? Well, if you want to get involved, understand and love yourself first. Love yourself.
Right.
Stand up for yourself. Realize that you are an extraordinary human being and you're capable of so much more, and you shouldn't fear for being you. You shouldn't fear for having feelings and sharing your feelings and sharing your ideas, and you shouldn't fear repercussion. I mean, look what I've gone through. I think you've seen some of my work, and you've seen what I've been put through, and some people are like, well, why don't you just stop? And I tell them what Bob Marley told people. If the devil doesn't sleep and take rest on a day, why should I? Why should I give up and take a break or run away? No, we have to continue to stand for each other. And you know what? It's unity that's going to get us out of here. It's unity that's going to get us to a better place.
You mentioned some of the things that you've gone through. I that's how I came across you, because I caught one of the videos that you had done. Now, for the wider listening group, could you just walk us through some of the things that you have been through and the positions that you've taken and why?
Okay. Well, it was Police the Police 3.0 and Free Thought Project that did that story on, and I really thank them so much, because they really share a lot of stories of injustice that goes on and stuff like that.
Right.
And what happened in my case is that, over time, I spent a lot of time at the courthouses, and I would hand out jury notification education and pamphlets. I would hand out constitutions. I would stand on the steps and preach these things about the Constitution. I would go, one-on-one with people and discuss with them their rights. And I did that, so many different places, DMV, the federal courthouse, the local municipal courthouses. I went in front of the judges and spoke my mind and demanded my rights be respected.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, over time, I fell on, obviously when you start doing things like that and people start supporting you, you're going to get followed. You're going to start getting harassed. And that's what happened. They started pulling me over by the courthouse. They would arrest me on anything. They would try to come and, harass me and demand my date of birth like I lived in Nazi Germany. I would deny them that. I would say no. I would stand up for my rights. Well, eventually I was at work and I was open carrying my firearm, which is perfectly legal, no permit needed. The officer said that I was carrying concealed, which in Nevada, if you want to carry your gun concealed, you have to have a permit. Otherwise, it's a felony. But if it's visible at all times,
yes,
it's nothing. You're perfectly fine. You don't need a permit. So they said my gun was covered, but the officer said himself that he was able to see what appeared to be a gun, but it was too covered, and that's where the litigation went back and forth. But here's the thing. They sent 8 undercover officers to my work. Why? They claimed that, they wanted to check the business license of the establishment, but I'd worked in the nightclub industry for a long time. When they want to check the business license, they usually do it before the club starts or afterwards.
Right.
So they don't disrupt business. And they always send one guy, one pencil pusher, to sign off and say, okay, we did it. But again, they wanted to go and for probable cause. They were there for probable cause to search the business license, to get a picture of it, to make sure it was up to date. And then what happens? Oh, we happened to run into Josh Martinez, who happened to be working while we were doing this, and he was breaking a law and carrying his gun concealed. So then it was my word against theirs. They arrested me for felony possession of a concealed weapons permit without a license. My boss and everybody, the coworkers, we were ready to go to trial. I said, I'm not going to take no deal. We're going to trial. Well, we tried to locate some of my witnesses. My witnesses were calling me and telling me, look, we got a visit from the FBI. And some detective, we got a visit from the FBI and the detective about you. They were asking us about your political beliefs, if you've ever talked about harming government officials or government buildings. And I said, look, I said, don't worry about that. That's just stupid stuff. Don't worry.
Scare tactics.
They weren't asking about, it was, I told my coworkers and my witnesses, don't worry about that. They're just trying to scare you. And they're like, Josh, what are you involved in? What did you do? Why is the FBI doing this? And the next thing you know, my boss at the time, he was getting visits from the health department, the state Nevada business license board, the gaming board. He was getting visits from everybody, and they were finding so many small discrepancies and fining him for it. I mean, I heard that they racked them up to like $20,000, almost $30,000 in fines and penalties. I mean, if you go to any business, you're going to find a couple discrepancies. Yeah, they gave them all those fines, and they were issuing him these fines because they didn't want him to go and testify for me.
Wow.
So eventually, they were hard to get. Yeah, they were hard to get a hold of because my boss, even when I talked to him, he said, "Josh, I know you're innocent. I know what they did was wrong. I know what they did, but it's really starting to scare me. They're really trying to drive me out of business. Can you just please take a plea deal? I don't want to testify." He told me, him and his wife both tried to convince me to take a deal. And eventually, I said, you know what? I'm not going to make this man do something that he's afraid of because, even though I can make him go on the stand, I could, if I wanted to, make him go on the stand by a subpoena.
Right.
But I said, well, he's scared. I said, this is something, they're coming after me and they're using everyone around me against me. And yeah, my other witnesses, they stopped answering. So we just said, you know what? I'll take a deal. So I took a deal. 19 days later, they raided my home pretty much, parole and probation, in front of my family, treated my family like criminals, scared my son, my youngest son, and they really, really were treating me and my family like we've done something wrong. They violated me again and took me to jail, put me in maximum security for 5 months. I spent 5 months in a maximum security lockdown because they raised my security threat. I'm now considered a domestic terrorist on
Because
the
you took this
federal
plea
watch
deal.
list. No, but because of my activism, because they say I'm anti-police. I was actually on there. I found out I was already on the watch list before the plea deal, and that's why I was getting visits and random stops by the
Really?
police.
You were
Yeah,
anti-police.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They say I'm anti-government, anti-police, and I'm a self-proclaimed First Amendment auditor and constitutionalist. So therefore, I should be on the government watch list. So no matter where I go in the United States or their territories, and I'm stopped by law enforcement, the law enforcement agency that stops me or comes into contact with me is to notify the federal government immediately of my whereabouts. And my attorney confirmed that while I was in jail. He says, yeah, you've been watched. They've been trailing you for a while. They monitor your phone calls. They monitor your Facebook. And you saw in that video
Right.
that, it was all over a Facebook meme that I didn't create. I just shared. I just pressed like and share. And they brought it up in court. And the judge revoked my bail and threw me back in jail.
So, for being pro-constitution,
Mm-hmm.
you are anti-government.
Correct. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I got this clear.
Right. Yeah. That's 100% accurate. And I mean, you would understand why the government fears the Constitution, because if you read the Constitution, it limits the government's power. They have no power. If we were to hold them to the laws of the Constitution, they would lose so much power. They wouldn't be able to tax us. They wouldn't be able to trick us into finding our neighbors guilty in a jury. We would learn, and that's another thing, jury nullification that they lie to us about. Anyone who's listening who's ever been to jury duty knows that, the judge will tell you, look, if you don't like the law, this isn't the place to talk about the law. You have to, there's legislators you can call, your local representatives you can call to discuss that. But if you don't like the law, tough. But here, if we can prove, or if the government can prove that this person in fact broke the law, you have to render a guilty verdict. That is not true. Our founding fathers, the people who wrote this Constitution, said that it is important for the people to understand jury nullification. The juror is the last protection of freedom. When the judge failed, when the cops failed, when the prosecutor failed, it's up to us, the neighbors. Hey, this person is accused of smoking marijuana or growing marijuana or having guns in his home while he's growing marijuana. And I don't like this law. I'm going to render not guilty. It's a stupid law. Jury nullification, the jury box, is where bad laws go to die. Bad laws don't exist without us because we nullify them.
Right.
We make them have no power by saying not guilty. And that's another, and see, that's what I've done a lot of work into, is jury nullification information. I've gone to the courts and I've talked to people, not jurors. You're not allowed to talk to jurors, otherwise they'll get you
Right.
jury contempt. But I've gone and talked to other people who being called up for jury duty, but they thought it was a waste of time. They're like, oh, I hate jury duty. But then I break it down, for them and show them the importance of it.
What is the importance of jury duty? Go.
The jury, the importance of it is freeing your neighbor when they've been wrongfully abused by a corrupt system that simply wants to generate revenue rather than protect our freedom. So, for example, I brought up earlier, marijuana prohibition. Marijuana prohibition is not working. Look at alcohol prohibition. Back in the 1920s, 1930s, when it was outlawed, when they banned alcohol, the government finally legalized it, not because they wanted to tax it, but because the jurors weren't finding any of the criminal or any of the
accused guilty
suspects, the accused guilty, exactly.
Right.
So people were saying, well, no, I drink alcohol. This guy provides my alcohol on the weekend. Who am I going to get alcohol if I find him guilty and send him to prison? So they rendered not guilty. No, set him free. So that's the importance of it, is that we can kill a bad law simply by raising our hand and saying he's not guilty. Even though he admitted, hey, yeah, I had 10,000 marijuana plants. Yes, I had 20 guns in my bedroom. Yes, I comb my hair and part my hair on the left side, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that if there's no victim, there's no crime. Leave me alone. Set your neighbors free. And that's the importance of it, because we have the right to set each other free if we stop trying to escape and get out of jury duty.
Right. Yeah. Because just about everybody that I know that has been called up for jury duty, with the exception of one person, I've only heard one person say, hey, listen, I wish they'd call me back for jury duty. But, of course, that was because they were entertained in court. So they found it entertaining. But it wasn't for the fact that of what you're saying now, where it is we are the last line of defense. Because even with that now, you're saying there are lots of people that went to, that have been convicted, that the jury either were previously brainwashed or they weren't given the proper instructions. They just don't know what they're supposed to do. They don't know what rights an individual will have. Even the fact that you're innocent until proven guilty without reasonable doubt.
Yeah, and
these
just
little
like you
things.
Said, and it's been mainly because we've been brainwashed our entire lives. I remember talking to a postal worker who told me she went up for jury duty, and we were talking about it. She goes, yeah, but the guy was guilty because he didn't pay his taxes, and he admitted he didn't pay his taxes, so he was guilty. So I sent him to prison. I said, you sent him to prison because he wasn't acting like the same slave as you and the rest of your co-jurors, because he wasn't paying into a system that bombs other countries and kills children. He wasn't putting in his fair share. And she looked at me and said, well, he we all have to put in our fair share. In taxes, you have to pay your taxes. No, because taxation is another form of slavery. Taxation assumes that they own my body and that they own my time of life. If I contract with you, Kevin, to paint your house for an X amount of money, and it takes me 30 hours in 1 week to do it, I have every right to contract those 30 hours, because those 30 hours are time of my life that I can contract with you. Nobody else has the right to come and take any part of that, because that assumes they own my labor. Nobody owns my labor, not even you. We just contracted. We agreed for a service, for an exchange of currency for a service.
Right.
And that's the fundamental, that's the most important part of freedom. And I'm for the taxation of goods like alcohol, gas, those things, a small tax. That's fine. I'm okay with indirect taxation, but not my direct taxation, not my labor. Keep your hands off of my labor, because I'm not a slave.
So, is it in the Constitution? Is there anywhere in the Constitution that speaks out against that?
Right, yeah. No taxation shall be laid unless let me see. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. Now later on, we had some evil men who were placed into office, and then they changed it up to right here. This was put, let me see, in 1913, okay? This is years after the founders were already dead. Okay, this says, the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on income from whatever source derived without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. So these tyrants just gave themselves power that the original document said that they didn't have. In Article 1, let me see, it's Article 1, Section 9. Okay? It gives, Article 1 in the Constitution says all the things Congress can do and all the things they cannot do. Okay? So if I'm your doctor and I say, look, these are the list of things you can eat and these are the things you cannot eat, can you go, once you get home, and write in the things that you can eat for yourself? Can you add on to that list yourself after I just gave you a strict diet which will keep you healthy? Do you think you would still stay healthy if you gave yourself more items on that list? No.
Probably not.
Of course not. So the Constitution doesn't allow the government to give themselves more power. Their powers are laid out in Article 1, 2, and 3. But yet later, in 1913, we have these tyrants who say, no, you know what, we're going to go ahead and go around that document. We're going to go around what our founders said and grant ourselves extra powers. And it says in, let me see, 16, the 16th Amendment, 1913, Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source is derived without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. That part, that amendment is unconstitutional because they just gave themselves power that Article 1 says they do not have. How can one power grant themselves extra power that the Constitution says they don't have? That's it happened right under our nose. And the funny thing is, around that time is when the Federal Reserve was created. That's when the IRS was created. That's when they stopped allowing us to use gold and silver for currency. So that's why they're like, hey, you know what? Who's going to notice? Nobody reads the Constitution. Let's go ahead and do what we want. You know?
Right. But little did they know that Josh reads the Constitution.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's going to take more than just me.
Right.
And see, in Article 1, Section 10, it says, no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So the money we use today is unconstitutional. The only constitutional form of payment is gold and silver coin. So why are they printing out money every day and making us use it? Because I forgot which president said this, but he said when the Constitution was being drafted that when the roles of masters reverse, he says when the gold and silver is taken out of our currency, the roles of masters flip and they reverse. Because before, the government was only able to live off of what we produce, what the people produce. You know, we mine the gold, we mine the silver. They couldn't, we were mining where we were paying for the goods. They couldn't come in and tax it. There was no way for them to deflate us, to deflate our currency. So let me put it in a better perspective here, okay?
Okay.
Example. Let's put an example that the nation's currency, we trade with bales of hay. There's
Okay.
1 million bales of hay in our nation through circulation, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What the Federal Reserve prints $1, and $1 represents 1 bale of hay, okay? I have $100 in my bank, in my safe, in my home,
Right.
okay? $1 represents 1 bale of hay. But let's say the government gets greedy and they're like, you know what, let's print out another $1 million. So how much does 1 bale of hay cost now? $2. So the $100 that I have in my safe, in my home, locked away, that loses value by 50%.
Right. So
because
it's
now it's worth really
$50.
50. Yeah, it's worth 50. They literally stole my currency. They literally stole my money without entering my home simply by printing more money. So the more money they print, it devalues the currency and it devalues the gold and silver, which today our money has no gold and silver behind it. It's not backed by gold and silver. So we're pretty much working for pieces of paper that the government's printing. And the more and more they print, the less valuable it is over time.
Now they're moving to cryptocurrency. So
Yeah.
so no, it's what a currency made out of thin air.
Yeah, pretty much, because let's say they don't like you. Let's say I had $1 million in cryptocurrency. What do you think would happen? The FBI or somebody would just hire somebody to accidentally press delete, and my number goes to 0. So,
Wait.
so it's kind of like, well, wait a minute, that's silly. I mean, I
What?
personally, I go in gold and silver. I invest in gold and silver.
Right.
That's where my money is. But yeah, I mean, look at those stories where you have, let's say, a farmer who needs a loan to get his crops started. So he goes to the bank to get a loan, and he gets his property appraised. They give him the loan based on the appraisal of his tractor, his house, other farm equipment he has. They give him that. They give him a little piece of paper that says he magically now has $75,000. Can he go into the bank vault and look at this so-called $75,000? No. Some banker just wrote down on a piece of paper that fine, we're gonna put this loan against his property, his 100 acres, his equipment, his farm animals, his home, everything, his car, his truck, everything. So in reality, the only one who has real property and the only one who has a risk to lose something is not the bank. It's that farmer.
Right.
So let's say the farmer hits bad times. The crop didn't come in good. He didn't really bring back the money he said he would. And he's thinking about going to get another loan, but he needs gas in his tractor and all that. Well, the bankers go to their friends and tell them, spike up let's crank up the prices of gasoline. Let's spike up the prices on these items to drive that farmer out of the way so we can get the land, we can get the property. So the farmer, he can't, he goes back to the bank and says, look, I need another extension. I need another $75,000. And the banker says, sorry, you signed a contract. If you can't pay us back plus our interest, we can take your property. I'm sorry, we're going to have to foreclose on your property. The farmer didn't screw himself out of money. The bankers systematically robbed that farmer. They stole from him because they just typed up numbers. Just like today, I can go get a loan. Beep, 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 beep. They type up some numbers, and they had nothing to lose. They just are given the authority to punch in some numbers on a computer and say, yeah, you have that much money. Don't worry, you have that much money. If I can't pay it back, they can take my home, they can take my car, whatever I have in my name, they can take everything. Everything from me.
Here it is. Someone, Marlon, just posted in the stew pot, the Depression of 1929 was a perfect example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, that's what caused this. That's what caused this when they forced people to turn in their gold. And yeah, I think that's what happened in 1925, when the government made it a law prohibiting people to use gold and silver as a form of debt, as a form of payment. And then they made everyone sell them back their gold, and they weren't even buying it. The government wasn't even buying it from them for the spot price. They bought it for really dirt cheap. They bought it to take all the gold out of the circulation, which, I mean, people wonder why we're enslaved. People wonder why we're doing so bad.
So, really and truly, so, all right, so the government owns all this gold and silver now.
Yeah.
So, who is the government? Who
banks.
who owns the gold and the silver?
The banks. The banks are what control the global bank system. Is what really controls all our countries. I mean, look at the last countries that want to go back to the gold and silver. Look what happens to them. We invade them. We control them because they want to drop the American dollar. They want to go back to the gold and silver standard.
Who is that?
The centralized banks use the American army, number one, to invade other countries who want to get out. I mean, look at what happened to Gaddafi. Look at every country. Iraq, Saddam Hussein. They wanted to go back to the gold and silver standard. They were talking about, no, we're dropping the dollar. Now, I'm not saying these men were 100% innocent.
Right.
They had their problems too, just like any government. But look how many more lives it cost. We sent our young men and women to fight in wars that we inherently thought were for the good of humanity. You know, that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, and if we didn't take him from power now, he was going to attack us and kill everyone. Kill the entire world, which wasn't true. We got there. There were no WMDs.
Right.
You know who really has the WMDs? The U.S. government. They have the weapon of mass distraction. They can distract us and get us into wars we have no business in being in the first place.
That's not the first time I'm hearing that.
Yeah. It's insane. It's insane because the government plays it so well because they use September 11th to invade these countries because they know that humans have a natural inclination to fight. We love the idea of war. We are aroused by the idea of war, us against them.
Right.
And I mean, all species go through it. I mean, look at bacteria. Look at germs and bacteria when they work in colonies in the billions every day. When they find one source of nutrition, they make war with each other. They go to war. Look at ants. Look at bees. Whenever there's an intruder, an attack on the colony, they release a war pheromone,
right,
an alert pheromone that alerts other bees to come and fight. And it's human nature because it's created by Mother Nature. Now it's just inherently part of us. We want to fight. We want to conquer. It's just a part of man's design. We have to learn how to reverse it because it's Mother Nature's social invention, not ours. But it's going to be, it's probably going to be the destruction of all human life if we continue on this way.
Mm-hmm. We don't really think about how deep all this goes until you break it down simply. And I don't think it gets any more simplistic than this. But in this simplicity comes a whole lot of complexity. It's now mind-blowing that something as simple as, listen, I have the right to tell you, Mr. Officer, no, I don't want you to search me. And that becomes a whole thing. As an immigrant, you end up getting deported.
Right.
and you did nothing.
Yep.
But say, in this country, you have a right to say no.
Absolutely, you do. You do have that right, but unfortunately, they have lied to us. I mean, if you let me see in the Sixth Amendment, to be specific, it says in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury. Okay? It doesn't say the American citizen. It says the accused.
Right.
The accused has that right because in the time that the Constitution was written, slaves and Native Americans weren't considered citizens. But the founding fathers, when they created the courts, they still wanted the courts to have jurisdiction over them. They still wanted people to have, so that's why they made a broad statement, because there were people who lived here, like the French, who weren't technically citizens. They were here temporary, but they still had rights under the Sixth Amendment. The Sixth Amendment only recognizes one form of law. So that's why in there, here's the Fourth Amendment. No person shall be, the Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime. No person. So it doesn't say American citizens until later on when they talk about voting and things like that. Voting is a right for citizens. It's very specific. But in the Constitution, it uses words, more broad terms, like persons, the accused. So even if you're here, quote unquote, illegally, I don't believe in the word illegal. I don't like calling a person illegal because God made that man.
Right.
So what right do I have to call him illegal? So,
but the law of the land says you need to enter your legal in on the land if you meet certain criteria.
Right. If you come in, but see those in the Constitution, immigration was up to the states. Immigration was a state issue. Now, if you're talking about citizenship status, about not immigration, what's the other? Naturalization. Naturalization is a federal jurisdiction. So if you come here and you like being here, but you don't want to become a citizen, that was still an option you were able to have.
Right.
It wasn't a requirement to become a citizen. People say, well, you need to come here the right way. Well, first you got to get into one of the states. Naturalization came later on. So it makes no sense to require somebody to become a citizen out of the country and then come here. And then what if they realize, I don't like this country, I want to go back home. Then they go back home and their country's like, no, we don't, you already denounced your citizenship. You can't come back.
Right.
You can't come and get it back. So now that person's stuck. So our founding fathers they didn't have closed borders. Our founding fathers didn't have immigration office. The first immigration office didn't come out until like the 1920s, which was Ellis Island, where the Italians and all the Europeans came in. That was the first federal immigration office. So all those years before that, nobody cared. Nobody in government really cared about immigration until today. Now it's a political platform. Now it's a political issue. Now all these politicians want to jump all over it, not realizing that, wait, immigration is a state issue. California, Texas, Florida, they all should have the right to say, you know what, we want to accept these folks into our state, and we'll let them stay here. Because in the Constitution it says a citizen of the state, a citizen of the United States, and a citizen of here it says the 14th Amendment. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So that's talking dual citizenship. If you're a citizen of the United States and of the state wherein you reside,
right,
you are a dual citizen. That's dual citizenship that they're talking about. So if I don't want to be a citizen of the United States, I still have the option of being a citizen of the state of California, Texas, Nevada, Florida, wherever.
Right.
So I think that's an important thing to remember when we speak of immigration and naturalization. Those are two different things.
But that is not quite how it is. It is the business of immigration is done.
Right. Right. I've done immigration petitions for people. I've done I-6018 waivers, I-130 petitions. I've
Right.
done those things, and I see how how it is. They require you to do so much. They require these people to take a test that most Americans don't even know. I think it's hypocrisy. I think it's our current immigration system is broken. I think they need to fix it because we have a lot of people who can, really become Americans, and not through a piece of paper, because a piece of paper doesn't make us human. A piece of paper doesn't make us who we are. It's our integrity. It's our principles. That's what makes us who we are, not some piece of paper. I'm not Joshua Martinez because my birth certificate says I am. I am not the person I am today because of some birth certificate or a driver's license or the ID. I am a man. I am a free man. And I think our system has lost sight of that. And that's why that's another reason why we're in the way we are today.
You mentioned a driver's license. While before you mentioned a driver license, I remembered someone saying, well, I can't drive because I don't have my driver license with me. And the person we were talking to said, but your driver license don't enable you to drive. You know how to drive because you
Yeah.
learned how to drive.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I never really wanted to get my license. I gave it back to the DMV years ago, many years ago. I don't believe that the government has a right to convert my right into a privilege, and the right to travel is a constitutional right. It's already been stated in law. And if it's a right, I stated earlier in this conversation that the government has no right to convert a right to a privilege and issue a license. And therefore, I have a right to travel freely. We live in a republic, and anything I work for belongs to me and should be viewed as a part of me as the fingertips at the ends of my hands. My vehicle, I worked for. My vehicle, I paid for. I don't want the state's license plate on my vehicle because they didn't pay for any part of it. They're not paying for the gas. They're not paying for the insurance. What right do they have to make me ask them for permission? Then after that, they put a number on it according to what they feel is valid. I just got tired of it. I got tired of it, and I said, no more. I've already done enough. I've already paid you. I already took the test once. I proved to the state that I am able to operate a motor vehicle. Why do I have to go in every so often? Why do I have to carry a piece of plastic that belongs to the state? I don't want that. I'm not your subject. I am not your citizen. I am a free man.
But being in Nevada, aren't you a citizen of the state of Nevada?
Right. I am a citizen of the state of Nevada, correct. But I should not be forced to carry a piece of paper that's by the government. I had what was called I still have one, a common law ID, which has all my basic information. It has my picture on it. It's notarized inside.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was showing. When I would be stopped, I would show that to police officers and say, this is my ID. I'm not showing you anything that shows the state of Nevada, because really the state of Nevada and all states in the union have made that license as a contract. Why am I signing something that belongs to the government? I don't want to contract with the government. That is a government contract, and I don't want to be a part of that. I want to be a free man. If you want my identity, here's my identity. Here you go. But they wanted to keep track of us, and that violates my Fourth Amendment right to privacy. I don't want my information being displayed on my bumper. I don't want my information tracked in your computer. You have no right to know about it. You have no right to know about me. So, yes, it may be I am a citizen of the state of Nevada, but I still do not waive my right to privacy. I still do not waive my right to contract. I retain those rights, and I want them protected. And having a state-issued ID, that doesn't protect my rights. That actually makes me even more slave.
So you don't have a driver license right now.
No, I don't.
Do you drive?
No, not right now. For another reason, they will. I'm just trying to stay off the streets right now. Even if I did have a driver's license, I would choose not to drive because of the targeting that I'm under.
Right.
So it's good for me not to get behind the wheel, because anything from a parking ticket will land me in prison. They will try to throw me in jail for anything.
Wow.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, in my contract it says that the probation agreement, it said that anything from a parking ticket to a traffic infraction can get me sent to prison. So that's how easy they're making it for me to slip.
So, can you ride a bicycle?
Yeah, absolutely. It's healthier, you know.
Do you then have to cross the street? Do you have to get off the bicycle and walk it across the street on the pedestrian crossing?
No. Here in Nevada, if you ride a 10-speed or a bicycle, you can ride on the roadways. I mean, yeah, it's still, they can come and get me, but it's a lot harder to get me for a traffic infraction because, if I'm behind the wheel, they can say I didn't come to a complete stop behind the stop sign,
right,
and then give me a ticket. And I've been followed left and right. I mean, when I used to drive in my vehicle, I used to see undercover cops behind me, and I'd get stopped magically, coming out of my neighborhood, and they knew who I was, and now I just know it'd be the incentive for them to stop me and give me a ticket, because the detective who's been targeting me has a whole fleet of officers waiting at his command, and they'll do just about anything. He can tell them, because it'll be really my word against theirs. They can say, oh, your taillight wasn't working, or your headlight isn't working. You failed to signal. They can say anything they want and send me to prison. So I've decided to refrain from that for a while until I'm back up and out of this contract.
I can't tell you how crazy all of this sounds to me. So don't you get fed up and just want to give in and just get the driver license so that you can go about your business with however you want to, and doesn't it bother you?
Before I got into all this, before I got into this trouble with the firearm deal at my job, I got 2 citations. I don't know if you saw, but I've gotten 2 citations for driving without a license. I went to court, argued with them, told them that I do not have a driver's license. I will not get a driver's license, and they've dropped the cases 2 times. They've dropped them. So people ask, well, look, it cost you all that time. You had to, take time from your daily routine to go to the court and question this. Why don't you just go to the DMV and just get a license?
Right.
Well, yeah, I can. Liberty isn't easy. Freedom isn't free. If I wanted easy, yeah, I just go to the DMV and ask for all that. But the purpose right now is protesting for a right to travel. There's been a lot of good things that happen. Now here in Nevada, they don't take you to jail for driving without a license. They don't take you to jail they don't tow your vehicle for not having a driver's license anymore. And that's because good people here who believe in the same principles as I would challenge the courts. They kept jamming up the courts and taking the local police department to court for taking their property before due process of law. So yeah, I mean, if you keep on fighting, you keep on standing, eventually things will change. And that's what it is right now. That's the issue today, is that people aren't fighting. They're making it easier for these people, like the government, to take our property and to treat us like slaves and to keep us enslaved. But, I mean, I don't think I'll ever, go back to doing the driver's license thing. I don't think I ever will. And that's because, also because of my two victories that
Right.
I've had with the courts. I went to court and said, I'm not going to help you bury me. And I've asked people this, I've asked people this question when they ask me about driver's license. If I take you out to the desert and I hand you a shovel and I have a gun and I tell you, dig your grave, dig the grave so I can bury you in it. I'm going to shoot you and bury you in it. Would you dig that grave? Would you dig that hole? Or would you try to take my head off with that shovel I just handed you? Now, most people say, yeah, I will try to kill you. I mean, why am I going to help you kill me?
Right.
Well, why are we helping this system kill us and bury us? If they're going to do something, they're going to work for it. I'm going to make them work for it. And that's the state of mind that we all have to be in. If we can't let them take our rights, we can't let them do that. We got to make them work for it. We got to make them work for it.
When you hear stories of people who claim their innocence that are incarcerated, what comes to mind for you?
When I hear about them, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is pain, sadness for them, because I know. I mean, we're seeing lots and lots of people who have been in prison for so many years for committing crimes they never did because of some officer or prosecutor who wanted to make a name for themselves.
Right.
So, I listen to them. Because it doesn't shock me anymore that there are cases like that. Now we're hearing more and more.
It's concerning. It's scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you are exposed to information, the more information you get exposed to, the scarier it gets. I listen to people like David Fisher talk about the Rodney Reed case and all that he has found with deficiencies in the law in the state of Texas. I listened to Dan Gutierrez out of Arizona. His case is only the second in U.S. history to be deemed void. His conviction, the second in U.S. history to be deemed void. I listen to situations like Julius Jones. I listen to the story of Richard Miles, also out of Texas, who was wrongfully incarcerated and now devotes his life to helping those who are incarcerated reintegrate into society, whether you were wrongfully incarcerated or not. And the more I get the reality of what goes on, is the scarier it is.
Yeah.
Because it's the more that I realize that people are just being treated any old way and being taken advantage of. Their rights don't really exist because
Right.
someone with influence is deemed powerful, or a group of individuals now deemed powerful, and what they say everybody just goes with.
Right.
Because now you have a bunch of sheeple
Yep.
that are walking around this land. And it's scary.
It is.
Listening to you talk about the Constitution, and the all that is our liberty, all that is our right. You know, it's scary.
Yeah,
And at the
it is.
same time, I commend you for doing what you do and in taking a stand. Because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Correct. Amen. Amen to that.
And I commend you, brother. I do.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I can't say that I am there yet where I'm where you are and I will take certain positions. I'm not there yet. I that's something that I would strive toward to get to. That's a place I'd strive to get to understand fully what my rights are and live within those rights. To be truly free. Because apparently the land of the free is not so free.
Right. Right.
The the democracy that is that we have known and praised shouldn't be praised at all.
Exactly.
And this is truly a republic.
Right. It is.
Josh,
Yeah.
this is a lot in one night. I really didn't
Yeah.
know what I was getting into when I did this, and I like I told you, I'd rather talk to you and get it the same time everybody else is getting it,
Right.
because
Yeah.
I wouldn't want
It's
to taint it in any way.
yeah. I mean, this is it's. I mean, you if you think about it, you're already doing. You're already part of the freedom fund because what you're doing is First Amendment protected activity. You're sharing an idea of liberty. You're sharing it and circulating it through the public. So you're doing your part. You're actually doing a part. You're actually an important tool here. Without people like you who are willing to ask the questions and get the true story out,
Yeah.
freedom would die because you have no reason to only talk about one narrative. You're a free man. You're free to talk about what you want, to share your ideas and circulate them to the public.
Yes.
And you're part of the press. You are part of the press because people think that in order to be press, you need proper credentials, which is false. It is absolutely false because in the First Amendment it says Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or the press. The press is activity you are engaged in. It isn't something you are.
Right.
It's activity. So what you're doing is a very, very important tool and a very important part of liberty for the fight. So you're already doing it. So you're saying you're not there yet. You're not ready to do it. You're already doing it, brother. You are sharing my story, which I thank you for.
Yep.
You are sharing other people's story, other people's perspective. You are a warrior of the First Amendment. Believe it or not, you're already in the fight, whether you like it or not.
Well, I can't say that I don't like it. You know, I'd be lying if I said I didn't like it.
Yeah.
No, I really think of doing my part in raising awareness to certain things, to the things that people want to talk about but are afraid to talk about.
Right.
You know, and it goes across the board, from how we spend to vaccinations to our choice of lifestyle. You know,
Right.
it goes across the board, and I have there's no problems at all addressing any area that people find taboo. This here, I will say, is a bit of a first for me, addressing the rights that we have in this manner.
Mm.
And I thank you for taking the time out to share with us what you have studied for years, and you've summarized it so well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, man, and you're welcome.
And if people want to connect with you and talk to you some more, can they do that? How can they do that?
Absolutely. Well, I'm on 3 different platforms. YouTube is my main platform right now. Joshua Martinez. If you just type that in, Joshua Martinez, you'll see my picture there with my flag in the background and my tattoo on my arm, with the people.
Yep.
Also, if you go to my Facebook page, type the same thing in, Joshua Martinez. You'll find me there as well. And Instagram, Joshua Martinez 1776.
What's the relevance of the 1776?
1776 is when the independence kicked off here, the war against the king.
Mm.
Yeah, around 1775, 1776 is when we drafted the U.S. Constitution, when it was drafted.
Right.
So that's an important number for people like myself who are constitutionalists.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Pro-constitution, but anti-government. I can't get over that.
Yeah.
I just
Well, you got to remember, the Constitution is to the government as what garlic is to vampires.
Yeah, well, the government as we know it now.
Yeah.
But
The government are the vampires.
even with all the amendments that they've made, still haven't written it so that it could benefit them to the best that they wanted to. You know, I would think by
Well,
now
I
they
mean,
would have gotten it right.
you would think, but see, when they keep hiding it from us, they can do whatever they want. You know, they hid it from us for so long that the only time they talk about it is on 4th of July, but even then they don't go into depth. So,
Right.
you know, the Bill of Rights and all these other amendments that they've snuck in there, I mean, if you read the Constitution, nowhere in it, in the original Constitution, does it really say that the government has the power to regulate drugs or medicine. They don't have that power. They don't have that right. So what are they doing? Regulating, throwing people in jail when it's unconstitutional. They don't have a right to tell another man how to live. They don't have no right to tell. I mean, look at the pharmaceutical companies today. Look how many people they kill and put into the hospitals. They put more people in hospitals more than the illicit drugs combined. So it's a hypocritical thing. It's a hypocritical thing, and that's why I like breaking down the Constitution, because it all the information there, and I think it's only like 22 pages long, the Constitution.
Right.
It's really not that long. The reason why we assume it's long is because when you walk into a lawyer's office, you see all those books behind him, you see all those different volumes and editions and all these extra things. Well, that's not anything constitutional. 90% of those laws go against the law of nature. They go against constitutional law. They're codes and ordinances and things passed by a bunch of tyrants in office to control us. That's all these laws are about. They're not meant to protect us. They're meant to control us. And with a growing number of people going to prison, and you see who's making money off of these people going to prison, you see the incentive. Then you see why.
Yeah.
Why there's so many laws. What good are prisons if they're empty? What good are they to the rich if they're empty? You know? So in order to occupy them, to get them filled, you got to pass laws that are easy to break.
You know, that's another show right there. Our prisons.
Yeah.
The prisons and who owns them and who benefits from them.
Mm-hmm.
What purpose do they serve?
Yeah.
Josh, thank you again.
Hey, you're welcome, man, and thank you for having me.
I have a feeling we're gonna need to talk again.
Absolutely.
You know, whether it be in part, but well, you and I will be in communication nonetheless.
Absolutely.
And for those who are tuning in late, if you missed it at all, never fear. It will be on kevinstew.com by morning. Just check the video archives. It will be there. Josh, you have yourself a great night. Be safe. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family.
Thank you. You too. You do the same. We'll talk soon.
Oh, yeah. And just don't stop doing what you're doing, bro.
Absolutely. Still be here.
All right. Take it
All
easy.
right, bye-bye.
Have a good night. Ten minutes to the top of the hour. That was Joshua Martinez. We don't have a lot of time, but we definitely have a little time for this. This is the sound of Paulin. It's called Monster. This song here started a whole movement. A movement against wrongful incarceration. A movement for rights and liberties. This is new music from Cesar.
Is it getting better? Do you feel the same?
His rendition of U2's One.
Will it make it easier on you now? You've got someone to blame.
Inspired by Bob Marley's So Much Trouble.
One love, one life, is one need. Life, one life, it's a share. Leaves you, baby, if you don't care for it. Did I disappoint you? Leave a bad taste in your mouth. You act like you never had love, and you want me to go without. Well, it's too late tonight. Drag the past out into the light. We're one, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other, carry each other. Whoa. Have you come here for forgiveness? Have you come to raise the dead? Have you come here to play Jesus? To the lepers in your head? Did I ask too much? More than a lot. You gave me nothing, now it's all I got. We're one, but we're not the same. Yeah, we hurt each other and we do it again. You would say, love is a temple, love's the higher law. Love is a temple, love's the higher law. You ask me to enter, but then you make me crawl. I can't be holding on to what you got when all you got is hurt. One love, one blood, one life. You got to do what you should. One dream with each other, sisters, brothers. One life, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other, carry each other.
Once again, before this, we heard from Paul Powlin called Monster. This is Cesar, his rendition of One. There's some more stuff coming from Cesar in the near future. Listen out for it. This is Nikki Blaze. This is how I leave you tonight. Lost in Illusion.
Yeah.
Catch me tomorrow. Healthy Love right here at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. KevinStew.com.
Lost in illusion. lost in illusion. I see them love. Oh yes, I see them lost in delusion. And now they reside in the state of confusion. Why is it that my race remains poor? My race sitting on the jail floors. My race fighting to knock down doors. Same race they stole from across the shore. My race that built this great nation, still trapped on my subplantation. I see them love. Oh yes, I see them lost in illusion. Lost in illusion. I see them love. Oh yes, I see them lost in delusion. And now they reside in a state of confusion. Rwanda, Haiti, down in Darfur, Jamaica, they're crying out for murder, hunger. Why can't we come together and help one another? It only takes but one to start a revolution. Please don't play into the illusion. Oh, I see them lost. Yeah, I see them lost. Oh, in a state of confusion. Wake up, wake up, wake up, yeah. Oh, I see them lost. I see them lost. I see them running.
Good morning, good afternoon, good day to you wherever you are in the world from right here in South Florida.
Lost.
I bid you good night.
All my people lost, yeah. I wanna tell you to you now. Oh, I see them lost. Lost in illusion, yeah. I see them lost. Oh, lost in delusion.
Greetings and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The night shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.